everyone, and welcome to Mindbody Insights, an interview series where I sit down with experts in the field of holistic health to increase awareness of our mind-body systems and to share practical tools that you can start to implement right away to see positive impacts in your life. My name is Kathleen Bosselman. I'm a yoga instructor and licensed massage therapist at Brooklyn Mindbody Collective, a wellness center offering complementary and holistic healthcare to our community while encouraging our growth as practitioners. Today, I'm joined by holistic psychotherapist Heidi Yoder. Heidi is a certified Gestalt therapist and New York State licensed psychoanalyst, and she has studied somatic psychotherapy and contemporary psychoanalysis at the Gestalt Center of Psychotherapy and Training in New York City. She has been supporting people therapeutically for the past 9 years, addressing issues related to self-love, anxiety, trauma, life transitions, relationships, and spirituality. She's also a yoga teacher, and her work draws inspiration from mindfulness and Eastern philosophy, Gestalt, psychology, attachment theory, somatic practices, the natural world, and art of all kinds. Hi, Heidi.
Hi, Kathleen. It's really good to be with you.
Yes, I'm so thrilled to be sharing the space with you today. Your work with clients over the years experiencing the effect of trauma who are seeking resolution has given you really insightful understanding of what the process of healing can look like for individuals. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit today about what you call relational repair, and we'll get to that a little bit later. But I think to start us off, I think what would be helpful for our viewers is if you just tell us a little bit about your work and background.
Yeah, absolutely. And this probably will tie into what we end up talking about with trauma and relational repair as well. But you already sort of like gave people a little bit of a glimpse into my background. And yeah, I studied somatic psychotherapy and Gestalt in particular, which the word Gestalt means whole. So the idea is that we all come into the world whole, but that along the way, there's these ruptures and there's these things that happen that cause us to sort of disconnect from parts of ourselves. And then the process of healing in Gestalt being about reclaiming all of what was sort of lost along the way. And also that involving like our connection to our whole self and our whole system, our body, as well as our mind, our intuition, our instincts, our emotional life, like all of that sort of is very central to how I work with people. Because to me, it's like not that much that's super useful about healing happens just from the neck up. Somewhat, but if we're not like getting into the body and we're not getting into some of those really deeper layers, we're staying on the surface and we might not find the kind of resolution that we're looking for. So one thing I wanted to mention, like that I've been reflecting on, I guess lately, is just the sort of how passionate I am about helping people go from fear to trust. So this is connected to what I was just saying, but this gradual letting go of any idea that something's wrong with us and going into trust of even my pain is here for me in some way, is trying to communicate something. It's trying to tell me something essential, actually, about how I can come into deeper alignment, how I can actually live in my wholeness, how I can reach my fullest potential. So to me, it's very much like non-pathologizing. There's nothing to pathologize. There's nothing to fix. There's nothing broken. It's just, how do we actually feel safe enough to be able to go to those places where we can listen to what's happening and get sort of the deeper insights that are trying to bubble up and trying to come through.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense for you. And I'm curious what you think, or how you help people identify what those, I'm not looking for the right word, I don't want to say symptoms, but what it looks like when we have that sort of unresolved trauma that's maybe speaking to us, and that you're trying to encourage your clients towards maybe trusting or listening a little bit deeper. What does that look like?
What does that look like? The process of sort of, yeah. And I even like that you sort of stumbled on the word symptoms, because I find myself doing the same a little bit. Like, I have a sort of reaction to that word because it sort of goes into the language of pathology often, I think. And how can we see it as sort of like, how can we change it to signals maybe, or messengers or something like that? But yeah, the process for me, trauma is really about rupture and about fragmentation. And it's a relational splitting, even most and foremost within ourselves. So we, again, like had to split off from these parts of ourselves that held on to the pain of whatever we went through in the moment to be able to maintain some equilibrium, right? So it's like trauma isn't the event itself, it's what we've carried in ourselves and what's been the kind of unresolved energies that we've held in our system as a result of not having what we needed to metabolize that pain, not having been supported in the moment, not having been heard. And there's an example of like, if an animal goes through something or they've been hurt or chased or something, then they'll go to a safe place and they'll shake. They'll actually physically shake. And we're mammals, we're designed to do the same thing, right? To discharge that energy. But most of us don't sit down and let our bodies shake if we've been through something, or, never had the opportunity to have someone like hold us, physically, or to be able to, if we were sort of, for example, like trapped, or held down, or to be able to complete that cycle, whatever it was, of wanting to hit someone, wanting to run, wanting to fight back. And so it's all those energies that are still running in our system that is the trauma, actually. And they're just looking for resolution. They're looking to complete that cycle, which is why we'll often find ourselves in sort of similar seeming situations to some of the trauma that we might have been through. Because those parts of us are just looking to figure out, how do I have another opportunity to have a different outcome, right? So if someone sort of like finds themselves habitually in relationships with some emotionally unavailable people, or for just one example. But, I like how, Peter Levine, who's the founder of Somatic Experiencing, he says, trauma isn't a problem to be solved. It's a presence awaiting witnessing. So to me, it's like there's this presence that's always, when I'm in a session with somebody, working with somebody, there's this something there that's awaiting witnessing, but is also kind of maybe hiding out and protected, right? So because in some way, I think we know on some level, if we've been through trauma, that there was something missing. There was sort of like this lack, and we might feel that in ourselves, is like, we often interpret it as, I'm lacking, or there's something wrong with me, right? But again, moving from fear to trust, to me, it's like how do I go to, okay, there was something here. How can we find that together? How can we sort of like investigate and look to have this ultimately, which we can talk about, like this relational repair that allows us to bring in those parts of ourselves, those hurt parts of ourselves, and to actually get to feel entirely different in our whole being.
Yeah, I think I'm sensing that there's like, you're used to the word presencing, or like sitting with this emotion or this sensation is really key. When you say relational repair, what do you mean by that?
Yeah. So we're all a multiplicity of parts. We're not just one thing. And in IFS, internal family systems therapy, this is basically the entire model is based on parts work, and Gestalt has a lot of that in it as well. But if we just identify as the thing that's causing us pain, we're going to have a hard time. We're going to have a hard time, actually, because what's needed is to be able to give that part of us something that it didn't get. And that's the relational repair. So it's basically, we're doing like attachment repair within ourselves that starts in the therapeutic relationship and then can translate ultimately into how do I approach and attend to all of these younger parts of me who are just showing up because they need something, right? So, I think it starts with, first and foremost, where are these parts? Like looking for them, kind of going on a little scavenger hunt almost and being like, where are they? What is this? How is this part of me showing? Like, sort of feels like feeling around in the dark a little bit at first when I'm working with somebody, and it's sort of like, who's here with us right now? Because there's, of course, there might be like adult Kathleen who's here talking with me, but then maybe something I say or something that you say or something that you see or triggers or experience in your body, like triggers a memory or triggers maybe unconsciously even a younger part of you to surface that might feel any number of things, might feel ignored, might feel hurt, might feel like it needs something. It might feel curious too, might feel joyful, might feel creative, like all of that is there. And so it's first like, I think I sort of see my job as a therapist sometimes is like, how do I kind of be a conduit for that like dissociated experience that's floating around somehow? And how can we bring that first and foremost into consciousness? Because we can't do anything we don't have awareness of. We can't do anything with that. So, your question about like relational repair, there's this idea that from this Italian Gestalt therapist, Gianni Franceschetti, where he says therapy is about being present with the absences. So how can we be present with whatever that lack was and attend to it and just first listen and get to know it, right? So there's something that's sort of like floating around, and we can sort of be closer and curious to it first, and then it's allowing it to have a voice. Once it recognizes, oh, somebody's listening, it'll start to pretty relentlessly want to share, and to feel safer and safer to do so. And then we're starting to realize like, oh, those needs I didn't get, I can actually get now. And I can have the permission to now in this moment feel safe enough to fight back if I had that impulse in a moment, or, to feel protected by somebody, right? Or, to feel like I'm heard, to feel believed. Sometimes that's the thing, to be comforted, to scream. It's like, so a lot of this is working again, like really deeply and intimately with our nervous system and our body, because our mind won't know that that's what we need. It'll tell us a story about what happened over and over on repeat. And that's a way of protecting ourselves, right? But it's not ultimately going to resolve what's underneath that. So I think maybe we got to the question a little bit, but
we spanned a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm curious too, as you start to see people kind of let those little inner voices or the absences be heard, what that ends up looking for them in their lives. How do things shift when that happens?
Yeah, it's pretty, I'm still every day just kind of like so mind blown by it. When the inner world starts to shift, the outer world like mirrors that back incredibly. So, it's kind of like this unburdening process, I find often. So whatever weight was put down on us by that trauma or by not having the opportunity to be expressed, we'll kind of feel a heaviness, we'll feel an emptiness, we'll feel like a frozenness. And then all of that starts to thaw, and we have access to all of our aliveness, all of our creativity, all of our joy, all of our like capacity for loving, being loved, for connection, and then just literally feeling lighter in ourselves, because it's I don't think this is just a psychological process that we're going through. It's a whole body, mind, spirit experience. And we're literally lifting up and clearing out the layers of density and the layers of what's been pushed down and in. And it's amazing. I sometimes have this image of like a snow globe, you know, and all of that, like what's been agitated, what's been stirred up is the trauma, and these pieces that are like looking for looking for something, right? They're looking to be able to eventually settle. And then that starts to happen little by little. It's not a super quick process always, but it starts to happen more and more. These pieces start to settle, and then we feel like more at peace. We can be more present. We feel more safe in ourselves, right? We don't have all this sort of unresolved energy bouncing around our system.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of like this beautiful, I don't know, clearing.
Yeah, and it doesn't go away either. The snow doesn't leave. It just
No,
sort of
yeah, I love
rests.
that. Yeah, exactly. Right. No part of us wants to be banished either. So it's like we get to bring that all back in, and then it just gets to feel more at ease.
Well, I think that's a beautiful idea to end on today. That's such a lovely image.
Yeah.
But before we wrap up, I did want to ask, how can people follow your work, and how can they work with you directly if they're in New York City?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'm kind of work with people a mix of in person and virtually, and so I'm at Brooklyn Mindbody Collective 2 days a week, and then in person, and then I work with people virtually on the other days. And people can also go to my website, which is HeidiSchellYoder.com, and my Instagram is also Heidi Schellyoder, both without the hyphen. And yeah, it's great to connect today with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. And we'll be sure to link all those things that Heidi just mentioned in the description for this video. Heidi, thanks so much for hopping on today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, so fun to talk to you. Thanks, Kathleen.
Thank you. And thank you to all our viewers. Have a wonderful day.